Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Hot Jobs. And today I am joined with our team member, Michelle. Michelle, thanks for joining us today.
Yep. Hey, Tara. Hi, everyone.
So before we get started, first, I'd like to thank our sponsor of today's episode, CNC Boiler, which is a family-owned and operated commercial boiler company operating in South Carolina, North Carolina, and Virginia. They have been such a phenomenal partner of ours that we always like to bring them to you, as well as they're interested in SkillBridge interns. So if you are mechanically inclined and have the ability to work in South Carolina, they would love to see your application. Of course, all of those details are on our job page under the SkillBridge section at hiremilitary.us, just above our heads here. So for today, we are going to be talking about how to work with recruiters. This is something that Michelle and I are really excited to talk about. And of course, if you are a recruiter, we'd love if you would drop a comment in the comments here underneath our live stream. And if you are a job seeker who has worked with a great recruiter, I would challenge you to tag them in the comments so that we can give them a high five, give them a thumbs up, and of course, connect them to the rest of the community. So as we jump in here, Michelle, I think we got to start at the beginning. Is how do we even find a recruiter if we are on the path to looking for our next opportunity?
Yeah, I think that's a great place to start, Tara. The easiest way to find a recruiter is to go to the company page of the company that you're interested in. And this is where you need to know what is a recruiter called. Recruiters can be called recruiters. Recruiters can be called talent acquisition. Recruiters in some places can be called like people searchers. I worked with a company and they loved like these fun titles, like just let people know what they are.
Yeah.
But if you don't know what a title is, you can also just search for like recruiter cyber analytics, and it will give you a list of people at the company, and then you start networking magic.
Perfect. Yeah, I like how you brought in some of those other titles. I was going to put in the people one. I've seen like, I think director of people, but also like team member in growth. So there can be some creative ones out there. Talent acquisition specialist or recruiter are probably the most popular. But I think what you said was really important is you can always go to the company page, and if their team members are listed, that's a great place to start. You could then take that name, go over to LinkedIn and see who they are connected to, or other members of their team, or other people who work at the company. So that's a great baseline to start.
Yeah, you can also just look right on a company's page on LinkedIn, or find a job posting that company has made, even if it's not what you're looking for. A lot of times recruiters' names are attached to job postings.
Their name and profile. So it makes it really easy to be connected to the recruiter if they're attached to that job posting. So that's another great tip.
Right. But look for recruiters. We want to emphasize, look for recruiters, people, not hiring managers. Your recruiter is your partner.
Correct. Just like in the military, as I understand it, there is a chain of command. And so same thing in the corporate structure, and the recruiter is the first person who greets you at the door. And so you wouldn't just walk around the person at the front door, right? You're going to say hi, you're going to greet yourself, you're going to greet this person. You're not just going to storm through for whoever is at the next location. So you always start with the recruiter. And as we're talking about how they're structured in companies, we should mention that there's a difference in recruiters who work for a company and then maybe who work for a staffing agency, right? So we could have in-house recruiters, huge difference, right? Huge difference. So we could have an in-house recruiter and they would work for that company. So they would be on the talent acquisition team, the recruiting team of the company. So if we're saying like, I want to work at company X, then the recruiter that you're talking to is employed by company X. But that's not always the case, right, Michelle? Where else? How else?
Right. And the thing to remember with those corporate in-house recruiters, they are recruiting for their specific openings, but they also are the ones who know the company culture very intimately, who know the team, who know the hiring manager. And a lot of times those in-house recruiters have influence, obviously, over who's getting interviewed because they're the first line of you moving forward in the process.
Absolutely.
And people, if that recruiter rejects you, sometimes it's not personal, and most times it's not personal. It just means that you're not qualified for the jobs that they're looking for. But network with them, keep them, abreast of what you're doing because they work with hundreds of other in big companies. It could be hundreds of other in-house recruiters that are doing the exact same thing for different jobs.
Yeah, absolutely. And even taking it a step further, many recruiters will have like a very small subspecialty. So if that's cyber, if that's intel, that could be 100 other things. And if you're outside of that, they probably don't have a position for you. But I think one of the things people often don't do is ask, is there someone you can connect me with that would have positions in my space? That's a big part of it because you're right. They're connected to not just the other recruiters on their in-house team or their agency team, but at different companies and in different sectors. Just like regular people, they may have changed careers, been at one specialty and moved specialties. They can still be connected to the community. So always ask if there's another recruiter that you could be connected to for opportunities that more aligned with what you do.
Right. And, those recruiters that you network with, at some point, if you're memorable and you're building a real relationship with that recruiter, and sometimes a great way to build a relationship with that recruiter is if you know somebody who you think is a great fit for what they're looking for and refer it, that recruiter is going to remember you because you just made their life easier.
Yes. I love seeing on job posts, and I do this too when I post a position, is like, if this isn't you, tag someone who this is. Like if you're seeing this and this position isn't for you, but you know someone who could be qualified, tag that person. You're right. That's a great way to build rapport.
Right. Absolutely. And it's don't just connect when you need help.
Yeah.
I
think you had a really good analogy, Michelle, on how and who the recruiter works for.
Right.
You want to give that to the audience.
Yeah. So you need to think about your recruiter as a real estate agent, right? Your realtor is there to represent the seller selling the house. They want to help the buyer. They want you in this position, but they work and they represent the seller. It's the same thing with in-house recruiters, right? And actually most recruiters, except, executive level recruiters, they represent the company. Their job is to fix the problem the company has, which is they have an opening that they need to fill. They're not representing you, they're representing the company. And that's a really important thing for people to remember.
Totally agree. And I love the analogy of the real estate agent. I think that, to me, really drives it home.
Yeah, it's easy. Everybody understands it.
Yeah, everyone's been probably in a real estate scenario similarly.
Yes, absolutely.
So
now
that we...
go ahead.
No.
The other type of recruiter that we see a lot of, especially on LinkedIn, are agency or contingency recruiters. And these people usually work for external recruiting firms where maybe a company is outsourcing the recruiting to a company. But one word of caution, a lot of contingency recruiters are the ones who are spamming people also because they're not real. They're not really real. So do your due diligence.
And I think that brings us to our first tip, right? Is to check the website of the company to see if they're listed, and just to, like you said, do your due diligence about messaging, making sure the offer or position is real. I always tell people, make sure there is a position description linked somewhere on a website, an ATS, not just an email, not just a paragraph, LinkedIn message. I want to see a real position description. Yeah, I think that's important too.
Yeah, and also make sure that you're looking at the email address. If it's a legitimate company, the person is not sending you an email from a Gmail account. They are sending you an email from the company named account.
I think it's safe to say they are never sending you an email from Gmail.
Yes.
Yeah. So now that we have some idea about what a recruiter is, who they work for, what they can be called, how are we getting on a recruiter's radar? So if we are a job seeker in a certain industry, how can I attract recruiters to know that I'm a great candidate?
Yeah, I think that that's a really good place to start. First of all, build your network. I always tell people, like, you want recruiters in your network, you want to connect with them. Don't wait until you're looking for a job to do that. But when you're applying for jobs and you're looking for a recruiter to recognize you, make sure that you're tailoring your resume. Make sure that, but it has to be authentic. Don't just throw keywords in there that are going to pop up in an ATS search. It has to really be who you are. But make sure that your resume is showing the recruiter how you can solve their problem. I always like to say to my clients, build a little path, like a yellow brick road, and a bridge for the recruiter that you can lead the recruiter down, and you're on one side and the job is on the other. But if you walk the recruiter across that bridge by showing them all the qualifications that you have, you're going to stand out and they're going to recognize you. When I was recruiting, if I saw a resume and the first 3 bullets really talked to what the job problems were that I needed to solve for, that person was probably moving forward, because I knew that they understood how to communicate. Even if it wasn't exact, it really shows that you understand how to present yourself and how to communicate. And recruiters look for that.
I 100% agree. Don't bury the lead. Make it obvious that you are a well-suited candidate for this role. I think that's great advice, especially on the building relationships. We talk about this a lot, right? About networking and building your network, having it before you need it. And recruiters are a big part of that. I always like to also connect with recruiters just to know what's going on in industry, to see what they're posting, what kind of positions they're looking for.
Right.
So I think it's just good overall, like, I'll call it like professional network hygiene, to have a variety of people in different roles in your network. And maybe it won't be you that needs a position. Maybe it'll be a friend, and then you can connect them. But again, build that network before you need it. I think another avenue that, along with the tailored resume, is to brush up your LinkedIn profile, right? To 100%. Make sure that all of your work experience is there, that there are dates, that it is clear. Your education is there, your roles, your responsibility, and the results you got from those responsibilities are all in your profile. Yeah. I like that open to work. If that's something that people can utilize while job searching, sometimes you can't, I understand that. But that gives a great green flag to recruiters that you are looking to be contacted. So I think that's another way.
Right. And, by doing that and putting that green banner up, it also lets people in your network that maybe you don't talk with all the time. Maybe someone sees that and they didn't know that you were looking for work, and they have recruiters in their network, and they may say, hey, look at this person. The other thing with your LinkedIn profile is I really like to see people update their about sections so that it really reflects what you're looking for. It's a real easy snapshot, that and your headline. It's a real easy snapshot of what you're looking for, and not the job that you have, but what's the job that you want.
I think another thing for folks to consider while job searching is to make sure that they check their privacy settings, that the information in their profile is visible to people who are not yet connected to your network. Because as people are potentially looking for or sourcing for candidates for an open role, let's make sure that you are presenting what you think you are. And if you worked really hard on your LinkedIn profile and you're completely private, it is going to be challenging for recruiters to find you. And we don't want that to happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And those can be, adjusted back after you find a role, if that's something that you're more comfortable with. Right. But during that job search time, I would encourage everyone to take a look at what's visible and making sure that it's visible enough to people that are seeking candidates like yourself.
Right. Right. And make yourself visible. Comment on people's posts.
Yeah.
Even if it's someone who's not a recruiter, make a comment. It's going to make you more visible on LinkedIn.
I think that's a great point. just a simple comment, or if they share an article, read the article,
Yeah.
right? Click on, see what's happening in the space. I think that also helps bring more awareness to what could be asked during an interview, what maybe people are looking for. Just staying connected to your network instead of like an ad and like a total ghost, right? They're just numbers, but are you active? Are you engaging? Are you putting value into your network? And then are you getting that value back?
Right, right. It's, quantity is great, but you have to have quality in order to really support your network and help you move forward and find, recruiters to connect with and find jobs to apply to. All of those things.
Absolutely. Before we leave this topic and talk about some opportunities, I had a couple of frequently asked questions that I thought I would bring up now. One of the questions was, as a candidate, should you work with multiple recruiters at once? What do you think, Michelle?
I think yes. I think when you're in your job search, if you are looking at different companies, then working with multiple recruiters is a good thing. If you are focusing on one company and you're applying to a lot of different roles, then you need to let all of the recruiters who represent those roles know that you've applied for 4 or 5. But, you never want to keep all your eggs in one basket. The only time that you would work with just one recruiter is if you are, looking at executive level positions where you're really looking at a retained search firm that works for you, that doesn't work for the company. Then it's one recruiter. You are married to them until they find you a job.
I agree. I think if you are looking for a role, I always suspect that job seekers are applying to multiple positions and talking to multiple recruiters. I don't think there's a harm in that at all.
Yeah.
Next question is, how do you say no without burning a bridge?
Be honest, be authentic, be gracious.
Yeah.
Don't ghost recruiters, because you never know when you're going to need that contact or that recruiter back in your corner. And you never want to leave a bad taste in your mouth, but you're allowed to say no. I always tell people that you're allowed to walk away from an opportunity if it doesn't feel right for you. And I know, a lot of our military clients that we work with, that's something hard to understand. I remember just having a conversation and I was like, if you don't like the job, you don't have to stay. You don't have orders that say you can't leave for 3 years. And that's a real mindset shift. But I think it's, if you do it professionally, you're not going to burn that bridge. If you just ignore them, then, all bets are off and you're probably not going to have that person to lean on if you need something next time. Any other thoughts you have, Tara?
Yeah, I think exactly what you said. If the opportunity is not right for you, just graciously saying no, I think goes a lot further than just not responding. And I felt this way prior to recruiting about like the messages or the cold messages. And I understand the other side now. And you really are just trying to cast a wide net, and you see someone that could be a fit, you want to have an introductory conversation with them. I think a short, hey, thanks for thinking of me, I'm not available right now, I'm not interested in this. Short, kind, clear is not burning a bridge. Not responding, I think, is just a little bit cold, honestly. So just saying no is totally fine. You're not burning a bridge. And I think even with working for a recruiter, if you start getting down the line and you realize that this opportunity really isn't for you, they want to fill the role just as much as you want a role that you feel fulfilled in. So it has to be a partnership. So putting you in a role where you don't fit is not really helping them in the end.
Because you're probably going to leave.
Right.
And you're going to cost the company money. And then the recruiter's going to have to answer to the fact of, why did this person leave in 3 months or in 6 months?
And then they start all over. So they would rather know up front if this isn't for you.
Yeah.
Probably the most important question. is it ever okay to go around a recruiter and reach out to the hiring manager directly?
Absolutely not. Unless the hiring manager is the one who is posting the job or making the post on LinkedIn and says,
Yeah.
connect me, because then the hiring manager is really acting as the recruiter and the hiring
Yeah.
manager. Never,
Yeah.
ever, 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 ever go around your recruiter's back and go
Never.
to the hiring manager. Never. Can't emphasize that enough. You want to tell everyone why, Tara?
Yes. So many reasons, but let's start with the obvious, is that there is a structure to this company and there is a structure to the workflow. The internal company, whether it's an internal or external recruiter, they have a workflow that they have decided on. And you stepping around the person who greets you at the front door is not a way to look like the best candidate for this position.
Right.
I use the front door analogy, or like at a restaurant, right? You wouldn't just move from the hostess back to the kitchen to talk to the chef. You would be escorted out of the building, right? There's a process, there's a workflow. You see the hostess first, you're seated, you talk to the waiter, maybe the chef comes out, maybe the owner comes out, but you do not just barrel your way to the kitchen. It is not a good look. It does not look professional. Like you said, I think even sometimes the hiring manager will post about the role and they will say like, hey, I'll make an introduction to the recruiting team, and kind of back to square one. So follow the workflow, follow the chain of command. You are not putting yourself ahead by skipping members of the team. You're probably doing the opposite.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Remember, the recruiter, when it comes down to it, the recruiter is the one who's going to advocate for you as a candidate. And sometimes in big companies, there may be multiple recruiters working on the same position.
Yeah.
And so if you are not kind to the recruiter that you are working with, they're not going to fight for you when they're sitting at the table with 3 other recruiters trying to put their candidate first.
Yeah. Totally agree. We have a good question that I want to put up on the screen. So thank you, Bruce. Question: why most recruiters ask a question about why are you leaving your current job, or why did you leave your last job, and what should be the best response? Bruce, I'm going to be honest. This is a tricky one. I sometimes would have pressure from hiring managers to have an answer to this question. So sometimes I knew the hiring manager was going to ask me, why did they leave their last role? And so I would have to ask because I had to give an answer. I think the best answer is a truthful answer without any, I'll call it gossip, right? So I think if the reason was you wanted a promotion and it wasn't available, or there was not going to be an opportunity for you to expand your skill set, I would potentially phrase it like that. However, I would tread carefully. I would probably bring it back to the job that you are applying for and that you are interested in this type of role that maybe wasn't available at your last company. The things I would leave out any personal maybe arguments or discrepancies that you had with staff. If it was a personal issue and not a professional issue, I would not talk badly about the company. You could always say, it was time for me to have a change of pace. I was looking for a change, something along those avenues. I would be truthful, but I would not disclose any like personal argument or air any dirty laundry, I think is probably what I'm trying to say. What do you think, Michelle?
Yeah, I think you really hit the nail on the head. You never want to air dirty laundry. One of the things that you can do is say, I've followed your company for a while because it's always been, you've always been an employer of choice for me. This opportunity kind of came along and I felt that it was really important for me to, go after this because it would allow me to join the company. So you're kind of not really saying anything about why you really left your company other than making it focused on this is the job that you wanted with this company that you're interviewing.
Yep. I think that's a great way to bring it back to the present tense. Anthony said that he just had to answer this question. Another company took over a contract. We see that a lot, right? And that can be a truthful answer that, no, I was working on a contract. The contract was not picked up by my company. That's a truthful answer. Yeah, so I definitely think that's a great question. Bruce, thanks for bringing that up. And it is a question that you will get asked if working with a recruiter. So having a way to prepare for that is really important. Before we get to any of the other questions, I do want to talk about a new job that I posted last night, got published this morning. So we'll take a second to talk about some hot jobs on Hot Jobs. And then if we have time for one more question, I see one in the comments. So I wanted to bring a new opportunity. This is the first time we're talking about this one. It is from our friends at 4C Strategies in North America. This is for a FSO position. So the facility security officer will also serve as an office manager for about 20 to 30 people. They will be the appointed FSO and administer the industrial security program in accordance to national standards, along with some administrative duties in the office. This position is located in Orlando, Florida, and about 75% of the time will be in the office in Orlando, Florida. So if you're looking for a remote position, it's not this one. This does have an office requirement, 75% of the time in Orlando. I have the full job description with all of the requirements. This does require top secret security clearance. There is no wiggle room on that. It is a requirement. I have all of the requirements listed at hiremilitary.us over on our job board. And of course, if you were in our job pool in the Orlando area, you got an email from me this morning with the job description. So if this sounds of interest to you, I highly suggest you tailor your resume and submit it on our job site. If you need the link for that, you can leave a comment here and I will paste that in. Before we get to the last question, Michelle, why don't you give a shout out to TSR?
Yeah, so we have our TSR program, which is a white glove transition program for service members who are not retiring but are leaving active duty from the cybersecurity arena. If that is you, please reach out and I will give you more information about this awesome program. Also, if we have any recruiters on the call and you are looking for people who have active security clearance, everything from TS, SAI to with full scope poly, please reach out and let's see if we can get some introductions happening.
Yeah, speaking of recruiters, we want to expand our networks as well, so we can help individuals as well as companies find great talent. Before we leave today, I think Richard has a good question that I'm going to put up on the screen.
Yeah.
Why do recruiters pressure you to give a salary in initial conversation? What should your answer be if you want the company to offer first? This is a tough one, Richard, and I'm going to tell you why. As a person who has recruited for a particular program and for proposal bidding and for new contracts, there is a budget. And I need to know before I pass you on to my hiring manager that if we agree on the budget, that you don't go up by $100,000 in the next interview. So if the budget is for $150,000, I need to know if you will accept a position in that $150,000 range. If your bottom level, if you said I won't accept anything under $200,000, then we have a problem. And my hiring manager is going to be upset if I give them someone that I have not fully vetted. So that includes salary expectations. I think there's a way to do this tactfully, but I think this is also going to have some personal preference. If you truly will not accept a position under a certain dollar amount, I think you need to be honest about that. If you have a range where you feel comfortable, I think that's probably an easier conversation of saying like, I'm looking to be compensated somewhere in this range. That's probably a little bit easier. Yeah. What do you think, Michelle?
Well, I think also there's a way to do it. Do your research for the position and find out what nationally it should pay. You know, we're fortunate now that a lot of states now are requiring salary ranges to be posted. Yeah. But if it's not, you can say, you know, based on the research that I did from XYZ, the salary range is this. With my experience, I expect to be in this part of the salary range. And I'm pretty firm on that number. And that lets the recruiter know probably around what your bottom line is. And recruiters will tell you, they're not going to put you forward, as Tara said, If you don't
Yeah.
fit in the salary range that the budget is, the job pays what the job pays. It doesn't pay what you're worth.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, with an unlimited budget, and to be honest, there was a project I had that had an unlimited budget, and if someone asked for, you know, a certain salary, I just wrote it down and said, oh, great, I'll write that down and say, if I can do it, I'll do it. But that was a very rare occurrence. Yeah, Richard, it can be a challenging conversation. I think the more you prepare, by doing your research, by looking at the company, looking at similar positions, and knowing what you will accept and won't accept, and being truthful. If you won't accept something under $200,000, don't tell the recruiter that you will, because it's not. There's not going to be magically more money at the end.
Right, and you don't want to waste your time or the recruiter's time and get to the end and get an offer, and then turn around and say, "Oh, I can't accept this. I need $50,000 more."
Yeah.
And we've now burned bridges with that company.
So we want to be as truthful as possible. When I was recruiting, I used to tell people that, and I got this from my boss, I was CarMax. I'm giving you best and highest first time, because I don't want to go back and forth. I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste my time. I have a ton of candidates to talk to. This is CarMax. If I can come in at $100,000 is the ceiling, I'm coming in at $100,000 just about every time. Again, with some parameters, but it's best just to be truthful. Well, over by just a little bit.
Blue.
I know. Thank you for everyone who participated and left comments and questions. You guys had some really good ones. And again, if you've worked with a great recruiter, go ahead and tag them in the comments. This is going to be recorded. We'd love to expand our networks as well. And Michelle, thank you so much for joining today and being a part of our recruiter conversation.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Bye, everyone.
Bye.